Earth's oceans rippled with the reflections of massive alien ships as the Brunali arrived to forcefully seize humanity's most precious resource, water. Ambassador Ethan Lewis nervously adjusted his tie, striding into the conference room aboard the lead Brunali vessel. The air felt thick and heavy, laced with tension, as Ethan faced the towering figure of Ambassador Vega. The alien's imposing presence filled the space, his scaly green skin glinting under the harsh lighting. Vega's 4 muscular arms were crossed, his long prehensile tail flicking with impatience. Ambassador Lewis, we must express our shock at the state of your planet. Vast oceans of liquid water, a resource of immense value, simply sitting on the surface, unused, Vega began, his deep voice resonating through the room. Ethan swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest. I'm not sure I understand, Ambassador. Water is abundant on Earth. It's essential for life. Vega let out a dry, humorless laugh. You humans have no idea, do you? Water is the most precious commodity in the galaxy. My species, the Brunali, have scoured countless systems in search of it, and now we have found the mother lode right here on your little blue planet. A chill ran down Ethan's spine as the realization dawned on him. The Brunali weren't here to negotiate or trade. They were here to take what they wanted, by any means necessary. You can't just take our water, Ethan protested, his voice sounding weak even to his own ears. It belongs to Earth, to humanity. Vega leaned forward, his dark eyes boring into Ethan's. You fail to grasp the gravity of your situation, Ambassador Lewis. The Brunali's need for water far outweighs your right to it. We will be taking what we require, whether you cooperate or not. As the meeting concluded, Ethan felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Earth faced an existential threat, and it fell to him to find a way to protect humanity's most vital resource. The fate of billions hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. Ethan knew he would have to dig deep and find a way to outsmart the technologically superior Brunali, or watch helplessly as they drained Earth's oceans dry, leaving humanity to perish in the wake of their insatiable thirst. As Ethan boarded the shuttle back to Earth, the dread of his meeting with Vega weighed heavily on him. He knew the news he carried would send shockwaves through the United Nations Security Council. The shuttle touched down at the UN headquarters in New York, and Ethan was immediately whisked away to the council chambers. The room was filled with a palpable tension as Ethan took his place at the podium. He scanned the faces of the assembled world leaders, each wearing an expression of concern and apprehension. Ethan took a deep breath and began his briefing. Esteemed members of the Security Council, I come before you today with grave news. The Brunali have demanded access to Earth's water resources, and they have made it clear that they will use force if necessary to obtain what they want. The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, with representatives from various nations shouting questions and demanding answers. Ethan raised his hands, calling for silence. Please let me finish. The Brunali possess technology far beyond our own, and their need for water is apparently dire. They view our oceans as an untapped resource, ripe for the taking. The council members looked at each other, their faces etched with worry and fear. Some argued for immediate capitulation, believing that resistance would only lead to destruction. Others called for a military build-up, insisting that Earth must defend its resources at all costs. As the debate raged on, Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, seeing an unfamiliar number. Normally, he would have ignored it, but something compelled him to answer. Ambassador Lewis, this is Dr. Marek Novak. I believe I have a solution to your Brunali problem. Ethan was taken aback. He had never heard of Novak, and the timing of the call seemed too coincidental to be chance. Still, with no other viable options on the table, he agreed to meet with the scientist. Ethan found himself standing outside a secluded laboratory on the outskirts of the city. The building was nondescript, with no signs or markings to indicate its purpose. He knocked on the door, and a moment later it swung open to reveal a disheveled man with wild grey hair and piercing blue eyes. Ambassador Lewis, thank you for coming. Please come inside. Novak led Ethan through a maze of corridors, finally arriving at a large, cluttered workshop. In the center of the room stood a strange device, a tangle of wires and glowing components. "What is this?" Ethan asked, gesturing to the machine. "This," Novak said, a glint of pride in his eyes, "is our salvation. I've been studying the Brunali technology left behind from their scouting missions. I believe I can use this knowledge to create a defensive weapon capable of protecting Earth." Ethan's heart raced with a newfound hope, but he couldn't shake the feeling of skepticism. "How do you know this will work?" "I don't, not yet. But with access to classified military resources, I'm confident I can complete the weapon in time. The question is, Ambassador, are you willing to take that chance?" Ethan thought of the billions of lives at stake, the fate of humanity resting on his shoulders. He knew he had to do whatever it took to save Earth, even if it meant putting his faith in an eccentric scientist and his untested technology. "What do you need from me?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with determination. Novak smiled, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "I need your help to secure the necessary materials and funding. This project must remain covert for now. If the Brunali catch wind of what we're doing, they may accelerate their plans." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Consider it done. We'll get you what you need." As they shook hands, sealing their partnership, Ethan couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. With Novak's brilliance and Earth's resources, they might just stand a chance against the Brunali threat. But the clock was ticking, and they both knew that time was not on their side. As Ethan and Novak worked around the clock on the defensive weapon, hoping it would be Earth's savior, the world outside continued to unravel. The news that Brunali warships had breached the boundaries of the solar system spread like a wildfire, igniting a global frenzy. People took to the streets in droves, some driven by fear, others by anger. They smashed shop windows, set cars ablaze, and clashed with overwhelmed law enforcement. It was pandemonium, a stark contrast to the focused determination within Novak's lab. Government scrambled to quell the unrest while simultaneously preparing for the looming invasion. Military forces were mobilized, and emergency shelters were hastily constructed. But even as they braced for the worst, a shocking truth came to light. Victor Stanton, a notorious billionaire with a reputation for ruthless business tactics, had been engaged in clandestine negotiations with the Brunali. The price for his betrayal? A colossal sum of money and exclusive access to advanced alien technologies. Stanton and his cabal of wealthy elites had agreed to facilitate the Brunali's seizure of Earth's water, selling out their own planet for personal gain. Ethan was livid when he discovered Stanton's treachery. The knowledge that one of Earth's own could so callously jeopardize the fate of billions was a bitter pill to swallow. Ethan confronted the billionaire at his fortified estate, a sprawling compound protected by high walls and armed guards. Stanton, however, was unmoved by Ethan's outrage. He calmly asserted that he was merely taking the necessary steps to ensure his own survival in a rapidly changing universe. Earth, he argued, was doomed either way. Why not secure a place on the winning side? Disgusted and disheartened, Ethan turned to leave. But as he made his way back to his car, a hail of gunfire erupted around him. Bullets ricocheted off the pavement, and Ethan dove for cover behind a concrete barricade. It was a trap, an assassination attempt orchestrated by Stanton to silence Ethan and protect his nefarious dealings. Ethan managed to escape, but the close call only solidified his resolve. Stanton's betrayal had to be stopped, and the defensive weapon was now more critical than ever. Back at the lab, Ethan and Novak redoubled their efforts. Time was running out, and they both knew that failure was not an option. In a moment of desperation, Novak proposed a radical idea, using Earth's water itself as a weapon against the Brunali. Ethan was initially skeptical, but as Novak explained his theory, a glimmer of hope began to take hold. By altering the molecular structure of water, they could create a substance toxic to the Brunali physiology. It was a long shot, but with no other alternatives, Ethan greenlit the plan. The process of modifying Earth's water supply was fraught with danger. One misstep could render the planet's most precious resource unusable, or worse, deadly to humans as well. But Ethan and Novak pushed forward, knowing that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. They worked in secret, away from prying eyes and potential saboteurs. The weight of their task was immense, but they shouldered it together, united by a common purpose. As they labored over complex equations and delicate equipment, the world outside continued to unravel. Reports of Brunali ships entering Earth's atmosphere trickled in, each one a chilling reminder of the impending confrontation. Governments issued evacuation orders, and cities emptied as terrified citizens fled to the countryside. The once bustling streets now resembled ghost towns, an eerie calm before the storm. In the heart of the chaos, Ethan and Novak remained focused on their mission. They knew that they were Earth's last line of defense, the only thing standing between humanity and subjugation. With every passing hour, they grew closer to completing the defensive weapon, but the clock was ticking. The Brunali were closing in and time was not on their side. As the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their efforts might be too little, too late. The Brunali were a formidable foe, technologically advanced and driven by a desperate thirst for water. Even with the modified water weapon, the odds were stacked against them, but Ethan refused to give in to despair. He had to believe that they could succeed, that Earth could be saved. With a heavy heart and a steely resolve, Ethan prepared to face the Brunali once more. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders, and he was determined to see this fight through to the end. As he stepped out of the lab and into the uncertain future, he knew that whatever lay ahead, he would give everything he had to protect his planet and his people. The final showdown was upon them, and the future of Earth hung in the balance. As Ethan and Novak raced to weaponize Earth's water, the skies above the planet darkened with the arrival of a massive Brunali fleet. The alien ships hung in orbit like ominous predators, their sleek hulls casting long shadows on the terrified populace below. Aboard the flagship, Ambassador Vega stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen displaying the blue marble of Earth. He activated the ship's communication system and broadcast a message to the planet's surface. "People of Earth," Vega's voice boomed, "your time has run out. Surrender your water resources to us immediately, or face the consequences of defiance. You have 1 hour to comply." The ultimatum sent shockwaves through the global community. Panic gripped the streets as people realized the gravity of the situation, but Ethan refused to bow to the Brunali's demands. In a daring move, he hacked into the worldwide communication network, hijacking every screen and speaker on the planet. With a steely resolve, he addressed the people of Earth. "Citizens of Earth, I come to you with a shocking revelation. The Brunali invasion is not just a battle for our water, but a betrayal from within. Victor Stanton, the billionaire industrialist, has been conspiring with the aliens, selling out our planet for his own gain." Ethan's words ignited a firestorm of outrage. Across the globe, angry mobs stormed the compounds of Stanton and his co-conspirators, dragging them from their ivory towers to face the wrath of the people they had betrayed. The streets echoed with chants of "traitor" and "justice" as the once untouchable elites were brought low. In the midst of the chaos, Novak and his team worked feverishly to complete the water modification process. They knew that every second counted as the Brunali landing craft had begun their descent, targeting major cities around the world. Ethan paced the lab, his heart pounding in his chest as he waited for news. Finally, Novak burst into the room, his face flushed with triumph. "It's ready," he announced. "The weaponized water is primed and loaded into the global distribution network." Ethan wasted no time. He gave the order to deploy the modified water, watching on the screens as it surged through the pipes and into the streets. He prayed that their gambit would pay off, that the Brunali would be stopped in their tracks. The effect was immediate and devastating. As the alien soldiers emerged from their landing craft, they were met with a deadly spray of toxic water. They choked and convulsed, their bodies unable to process the lethal substance. The invasion ground to a halt, the Brunali realizing too late that Earth's water had become their greatest enemy. But Vega refused to accept defeat. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, he commanded his ships to initiate a full-scale bombardment of the planet's surface, intent on destroying the water sources that had been turned against them. Ethan and Novak, however, had anticipated this move. Unbeknownst to the Brunali, they had constructed a network of orbital defense platforms, each armed with the same weaponized water. As the alien ships closed in, the platforms unleashed a barrage of toxic torrents, the water eating through the Brunali hulls like acid. The sky above Earth lit up with the explosions of dying ships, their once mighty forms reduced to twisted, smoldering wrecks. The Brunali fleet was decimated, the few surviving vessels fleeing into the depths of space, their dreams of conquest shattered. The narrator continues the story, detailing the aftermath of humanity's desperate victory against the Brunali invaders. As the smoke cleared and the remnants of the Brunali fleet vanished into the depths of space, Earth began to take stock of the devastation wrought by the weaponized water. The once pristine oceans, teeming with life, now lay eerily still, a toxic graveyard for countless marine species. Beaches were littered with the carcasses of fish, dolphins and whales, a grim testament to the unintended consequences of humanity's last-ditch defense. Ethan and Novak, the architects of Earth's salvation, found themselves thrust into the global spotlight, hailed as heroes by a grateful populace. But even as they were showered with accolades and praise, the weight of their decisions hung heavy on their shoulders. The price of victory had been steep, and the scars it left on the planet would take generations to heal. As the world struggled to rebuild, whispers of a new threat began to circulate. Rumors of a shadowy presence lurking in the depths of space, a force far more powerful and sinister than the Brunali. It was then that the true nature of the invasion was revealed. The Brunali, it turned out, were merely pawns in a cosmic game of chess, manipulated by a vast and ancient empire known as the Quizon Imperium. The Quizon, a race of technologically advanced beings, had orchestrated the conflict as a means of testing humanity's resolve and potential as a rival power. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine as he absorbed this revelation. The battle for Earth's water had been but a prelude to a much larger war, one that would determine the fate not just of humanity, but of the entire galaxy. He knew then that their work was far from over. In a final scene, the narrator describes Ethan standing alone on a cliff overlooking the once vibrant ocean, now a sickly shade of green. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and red, as if the heavens themselves were bleeding. Ethan's thoughts turned to the sacrifices that had been made, the lives lost, and the challenges yet to come. The weaponized water, once Earth's salvation, now served as a haunting reminder of the lengths they had been forced to go to ensure their survival. As the last light of day faded, Ethan made a silent vow to do whatever it took to protect his people, to ensure that the sacrifices made in the name of freedom were not in vain. The narrator speaks once more, their voice heavy with the weight of history. And so humanity had emerged victorious from its first great test, but the true measure of its strength and unity was yet to come. As Ethan stood on the precipice of a new era, he knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with peril, but he also knew that the human spirit was indomitable, that together they could face whatever the cosmos threw at them. Earth had won the battle, but the war for the galaxy was only just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.